So when WeUnik first started, it was my only demographic, to be quite honest, were Black women. That was the only demographic that I was targeting anything towards. And it was because, like, at that time, right, and this is still the case, when you walked into any grocery store or convenience store or pharmacy store, whatever, and you went down the beauty aisle, you had to search. It was like going on a scavenger hunt to find hair care products that work well on textured hair, to find products formulated for textured hair care. It was almost impossible to find in most beauty stores and most box stores, most chain stores, until very recently, to be quite honest. And one of the larger box stores that is currently being boycotted against, that was one of the only ones to come and give invites to melanated businesses and to businesses that service or target melanated individuals. It was just like you couldn't find stuff for our hair. And so I was like, well, I'm creating these products because, first of all, I needed them for my own family, because you heard the story. I couldn't find anything that worked on all the different hair textures in our house that worked equally well for all of us. So I created it. So I'm like, well, I know there's a bunch of other Black mothers like myself, and this is the only demographic I am creating these products for. And I remember I had a super, super sweet, I had two mentors. One was a white Jewish lady. That was my girl. That's my Esbun Kum, however you pronounce that word. That was my girl. And then I had another mentor, or older Black American man, and may he rest in peace. And they were both like, you need to expand, you need to expand. And I was like, I ain't expanding nothing. And, I said it to them. Have y'all walked into any store? Like, if you're not lucky enough, because I consider diversity a plus in many ways, but if you're not lucky enough or blessed enough to live in a diverse area that happens to have beauty supply stores where the whole store caters to your hair needs, if you're not lucky enough to have that, you really are on your own. You don't have anything. It's hard to find products for textured hair in, let's say, Idaho, for instance, because it's not a lot of textured hair people there. So of course they don't have products there. And then in some areas where there are a lot of textured hair people, you still cannot go into any store and find products for your hair texture. You still often have to go find a beauty supply store to get those products. So I was like, look, I don't care what y'all say. I don't care, because like the one, he was telling me, like, it's so many more people when you expand outside of just your community. There's so many more people. So the profit potential is tremendous if you expand. And I was like, I don't give a F about that. It ain't about the money. It ain't only about the money. It's about serving a community that it's hard for us to find stuff, like that's all I cared about. And so we would get into it. And we wouldn't even agree to disagree, because they would always bring it up to the point that I'm like, look, you tell me one more time to expand and I ain't going to use you as a mentor anymore, because you're trying to force me into an area I passionately don't want to go to. And then add to that, around this time, I'm not going to say the name because I'm just not, but one of the larger, really successful Black-owned companies, and I love their shampoos and their conditioner products, but one of the larger Black-owned companies had just sold to a larger, older cosmetic company. And like the formula started to change a little bit, but what was worse was all, like they were really pro their community. And then suddenly when they sold, all their advertising went from having a bunch of melanin to no melanin. And they course corrected, and they started to include a variety of people, including melanated women. But by that point, the core demographic, like myself, we felt some kind of way. We built you, and when you sold, fine, you sell whatever, you expand your demographic, but you totally excluded us. So we're the reason You built big enough to even be able to sell. And then you totally exclude us from marketing once you sell. So I ain't buying your stuff no more. And I felt some kind of way. And I was like, I'm not going to abandon my community. I'm not going to abandon my community. And I remember the lady telling me, like, girl, you don't have to abandon to include others. You can expand. And I was so stubborn. And I was like, I ain't expanding, and stop bringing it up. You can mentor me on this other stuff, but stop bringing it up. I'm not expanding. And I was serious, and I meant that. And then one day, my good friend Deepak, may he rest in peace. I miss that guy so much. I miss him. Anyway, so Deepak was Indian, and we were so close. Nobody really knew how close we were. We ain't talk often, but when we talk, we could talk. So we ain't talk often because we seem to be incapable of having a conversation that lasted less than 2 hours together. God, that was a short conversation with us. But he had stopped by my desk, and he was constantly, we talked a lot. Like after, let's see, most people would leave the office around 6. If me and Deepak started talking, bruh, we was going to be talking till 8, 9 o'clock. And we would talk about everything under the sun. I have to say, outside of family, that guy, he's the only person I could just be 120% myself with. Anyway, that was my boy. That was my dog. And he had the kindest, most peaceful soul. And he was funny. He was so funny. And he didn't care that I had a potty mouth. And so anyway, that was my dog. So he would come and he would mentor me before I even knew what WeUnik was going to be. He was a friend / mentor. And now I look back and I realize, oh, wow, he was mentoring me. He was giving me great advice. At that time, I thought, oh, he trying to rush me, because he was like giving me advice on how to properly leverage technology, how to grow organically, like how to, take advantage of the various technical tools. And I just didn't get it. And he would just give me such great advice. But one day, and Deepak never lost his temper with anyone. I never saw him upset, ever. Even when he should have been. I would be upset for him over stuff. And he never got upset. So, or he never showed it. I don't think he ever got upset. But anyway, so one of these conversations, as he's telling me, how to name my files so that, SEO and keyword search, and he was just giving me all this great advice. And he was like, look, also you need to expand your demographics. So I'm like, not you too, Deepak. I done already told you what the deal is. Go into your any grocery store, like there's not stuff for us. It's not an adequate choice for us. And when I say us, I meant my people. Like, no, I'm not expanding. And he, was his polite self, and he was always very direct and very truthful and honest, and polite and just sweet. So he kept telling me I need to expand, whatever. And it's so funny. He never mentioned money as a reason to, but, he just kept telling me I need to expand. And he's like, Black people are not the only people with curly hair. But at that time, I'm like, we got the tightest curls, and we are the only people who need these products, because the other curly hairs can use the products that are out there for the people with the finer hair textures. And he was telling me that's not the case. And I just, I was so stubborn. And I thought I knew everything. And I'm just telling him why he's wrong. And so finally, he only lost his temper with me twice. The other time, I'm going to tell you that story later. I'm going to come back and record it probably. But this was the first time. So we was going back and forth or whatever. And finally he's like, look, I got a family member who has curly hair and her hair's thinning. And she would definitely benefit from using your stuff, but she can't even find it because all your keywords are pointing to the Black community. So she wouldn't even if she went and searched, she wouldn't find your products because none of your keywords touch her where she is. And I was like, whoa, not what he said, but how he said it, because he never lost his temper, ever, ever. But that day he did. And I remember I was just like, because he was such a peaceful soul. And I'm like, wow, you know what? If Deepak says this with such passion, perhaps I should give it a little more thought. So, I asked, because we was so close. Like, we talked to each other about everything, a lot of stuff, everything. And so I was like, but you're Indian. Is your family member Indian? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, you guys created the I can never pronounce this word, Ayurvedic healing elixirs and potions and stuff. How's her hair thinning? And he's like, he just explained that, a lot of Indians have different textured hair. It's just they straighten it all the time. So we don't know. And I never have known Deepak to ever lie, but I still kind of didn't believe him. And so that's one of the reasons I started, because I always had friends from every corner of the earth. My friend group growing up was so diverse. People called us the United Nations. So I always had friends from around the earth, but I never ever thought to ask them about their hair texture. And so for the first time, I started talking to non-Black curly hair people. And I realized, oh, wow, some of them have low porosity hair too, or high porosity hair and low density, high density. Like, a lot of non-Black women and men who walk around with super, super frizzy hair is because they actually have textured hair and they don't know how to care for it properly. And then a lot of them started sharing stories with me of how they have been discriminated against because of their hair texture. So my community wasn't the only community suffering or dealing with the specter of texturism. And many of these members of other communities with textured hair, the products made for the straight hair didn't work on their hair either, because it wasn't straight and it had different porosity level, and different ingredients are just needed to properly maintain the moisture of textured hair. And so after all that research, I'm like, you know what? I am gonna expand. And I'm gonna do it in a way that does not exclude my first target demographic. There's a way to expand in an inclusive manner that brings us all into the fold, all textured hair havers and all caregivers of people with textured hair. We can all be included in this WeUnik family. And so after researching and getting off my high horse and my soapbox, my mind and my heart expanded, and I was like, wow, there's a whole lot of people dealing with texturism, and there's a whole lot of people who do not have access to tools and products that bring out the best in their textured hair. And then, as you heard from some of the other videos, we started teaching classes and stuff, and we not the only ones. My community are not the only people who would benefit from this knowledge. And then we started doing pop-ups and this, that, the other. And I was just so surprised by the number of non-Black women who came up like, oh my God. We always have samples at these pop-ups. And so me and my daughter, my eldest, she always comes, we always do the pop-ups together. And sometimes the women would try the samples, and even the men would try the samples, and they're like, oh my God, it just melts into my hair. Oh, my scalp feels better immediately, this, that, the other. And these were not Black people, but they did have curly hair. And you could just see, one woman, she walked in with her hair slightly frizzy, and she was like, I wonder if your pomade will help. I'm like, girl, here's a sample, try it. Her hair immediately looked good, shiny, and she's like, oh my God, it's not weighed down. And she's like, can I put some more on? And so I really realized this, these products, this knowledge is needed by more than just my community. And textured people everywhere can benefit from this, this knowledge and these products. And, we created the classes. We started giving the classes to the white moms with black kids, the Asian moms with black kids, the black women who never ever learned how to take care of their own hair. Like I didn't learn how to take care of my own hair until my 40s, I didn't learn how to take care of it properly. So there's so many people out there who could use the product and the knowledge. And then that's how I expanded. That's how things grew. And that's how we expanded who these products are targeted for. And that's when, I also started to include 2C as a textured hair, because typically when you hear stylists and hair professionals talk about textured hair, they typically talk about 3 and 4 hair types, like 3A to 4C. But after my research, I realized there's a lot of 2C people with waves that have low or high porosity hair that would benefit from these products and knowledge, like detangling knowledge. And maybe not detangling, because 2C hair doesn't get too tangled, but definitely from moisturizing, learning how to retain moisture and elasticity. Like that's when I really, really dove deep into providing solutions to textured hair people, regardless of their ethnicity. So thank you, Deepak. I miss you, friend. I miss that guy so much. It makes me sad to think about. But yeah, I'm finally doing what he said, And I remember when I finally went back and I told my 2 mentors, hey, you know what? I'm expanding. They were like, who's this Deepak guy that he could, in one conversation, get you to switch your thought pattern when we've been trying for years. So yeah, that's the story. And and so that's why we started offering our products to a wider demographic. And so that's it. And just wanted to share another story. And if you like this shirt, check out the shirt. It's available on our site, WeUnikWorld.com. And that's it. Ta-ta.